resume recording, and let me, I'm gonna wait to share my screen, Judy, and let us introduce ourselves, and then I'll share the screen.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so it is 1 o'clock. We are gonna get started because I can guarantee you we will not get through every slide in our presentation today. And it's just the nature of the beast. So my name is Elisa Wern. I am an occupational therapist. I also have my resident ATP. And I'm thrilled to have with us also Judie.
And I'm also an occupational therapist. I also have my resident ATP. I was formerly one of the founding members of Loudoun County Public Schools Assistive Technology team. And I've been interested in ergonomics for a really long time. And I think at this point in the day, if you've been participating all day, you are probably very interested in making some adjustments to your posture and your workstations as well. So we're hoping to help you out with that. This is going to be very fast paced, and we just want to assure you that the slides are available and the resources are available, even if we don't get to everything. And we are, as Elisa said, very interested in your feedback and your participation.
All right, I'm just trying to get my window set so I can have participants on one side and everybody on the other side. So hopefully you guys are, Judy, are you seeing our slides?
I am. I see the little bit about me for you,
Perfect.
Elisa.
Perfect. All right. So a little bit about me, we already kind of covered it. I think, the biggest thing is there's some contact information if you want to, reach out to us. Currently, I'm the lead OT in the school district and do assistive technology support for them. Judy, anything you want to add?
No, nothing I want to add, but I would hope that if you choose to, that you follow us on Twitter and talk about this. We think it's an important topic for all of us, as well as the students and the parents with whom we're interacting at this time.
For sure. So we are going to jump in. This link is also in that collaborative Google Doc. If you've never seen a Wakelet or heard about a Wakelet, the best way I can describe it is it's as if Padlet and Pinterest had a baby. It would be Wakelet. It's a visual way you can gather resources from from a bunch of different places. And so a lot of the resources we've mentioned today that are linked in this presentation are also available kind of one-stop shopping in the Wakelet. This video is a really great overview of ergonomics, and I would encourage you to go back and watch it. In the interest of time today, we're not going to play it, but the link is in the slides, and if you're looking for some quick adaptations, it's a great place to start. We're going to cover a lot of them in our slides today, though.
So what does your workspace look like right now? Do you have a dedicated one? As you can see on the lower left-hand side, there's a sofa that's kind of co-occupied by a cat. In the middle, which is probably what you are experiencing a lot of because you probably are working from home, you may be working with family members. And then there's a very orderly Mike Murata workspace on the right-hand side. But as you can see, one size does not fit all. And we're really hoping that this presentation will give you some guidance on how you can make yourself comfortable and healthy during the time that you're spending so much time in front of the screen.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest reason in why, I'm a numbers person, I like data, and I think the biggest reason is that whether you're in the healthcare world as an OT-PT or your primary area of practice is in education, so the cases of illnesses from 2018 to 2019 by industry, this is education and health services, and this is healthcare. The only thing that's bigger in terms of illness cases is manufacturing. So we want to really try to do what we can to prevent. Can we prevent every single situation? Absolutely not. But we want to try to prevent what we can. This is a similar picture of instances of carpal tunnel in just education, training, and library occupations. So as you can see, it's a very high prevalence for the people that are in this line of work, and hopefully some of the strategies we provide today will help kind of give ideas of ways we can alleviate and prevent some of these injuries from happening. We want to really quickly break down some of the risk factors in this scenario. So force is a huge piece of a risk factor. The amount of force we use to do something affects what our body position is like. And we know that as you're requiring more muscle effort to do something, you're gonna have more fatigue, which will lead to what we call MSD, or musculoskeletal disorders. Repetition is also a huge piece of this. So we know the course of our day involves a lot of repetitious tasks, right? Typing, mousing, all of those are things that take a lot of work, and we do them over and over again. And very rarely are we in a spot where we're taking a break every 30 seconds from a specific task. So we really want to try to make sure we're reducing the repetition where we can. The last little factor, and if everybody's cameras were on, this would be the slide everybody would sit up straight in their chairs, is posture. We know our awkward postures put a lot of extra pressure on joints, and the joints can only take so much before they get overloaded. So joints are most efficient in the middle ranges of things, all right? All of our awkward movements are very often not in the middle ranges of things. They're in the place where we're in that super awkward end of the range kind of scenario, right? Our risk of a disorder, of a musculoskeletal disorder, is increased when we work our joints outside of the middle range, or we do that on repeat without a break, right? So what can we do, right? We can't stop working. It'd be a great luxury if we could just say, we're done. But we can't. We can control what we can control. Like any good experiment, we're going to control what we can control, right? We can't control what's on your task list. We can't control the meetings that are scheduled for you. Who else is at home that you have to support? The weather outside, if you wanted to go take a break, or when something, whatever normal is, will return. What we can control is a little bit of planning ahead, the chair you use, the keyboard and mouse that you use, how your desk is set up, making sure the monitor's working for us, the lighting, the things around us, and the lifestyle, and to some extent, the stress level, all right? So we're gonna look a little bit at that first element of seating. We wanna make sure we start with the seat, because if your body's in a great position in that seat and well supported, the better chance of you not getting into those awkward postures, right? It's a better chance, right? We know that the more adjustable a chair is, the better position you can place yourself in, right? And we also know that nobody sits all day, every day, right? A seated posture is not one we're supposed to maintain for very long periods of time. Our body just wasn't built that way, right? So this is an example of a very, very adjustable seat. There's more information about this in the Wakelet, but when you're looking at a chair, if you have options at your house, if you have a chair that has lots of levers, chances are that's going to be the best option for you.
So I just want to remind everybody what the term ergonomics means. It's a term taken from the Greek word ergon, work, and nomos, natural law. And it is really the science of designing jobs, products, and places to fit the worker. And right now we're trying to make the worker fit what we've got. But we have options, and that's what we're going to talk about now. So if you are working in a chair or a sofa without back support, try using a rolled up towel, cushion, or pool noodle, even a 3-ring binder to increase lumbar and hip support. As Elisa may have alluded to, if we don't have proximal stability, if we're busy balancing ourselves on a chair that doesn't fit us, we are not going to be able to move at our best, and we're not going to feel very well. So next. So if you're sitting pretty, you're sitting with feet supported. If your feet are unsupported, the load of the upper body and arms is shifted onto your hips, core, and lower back. You want to adjust your seat height so your thighs are parallel to the floor if possible if you're sitting in a chair. You can use seat cushions to raise your seat height and reduce contact stress on the hips. And you probably feel that contact stress when you're in a Zoom conference or you're concentrating very hard, because you typically are going to lean forward and you're going to be leaning right on your sit bones, and it becomes uncomfortable by the end of the day. You want to fully engage or build up the backrest and lean back a little bit if you can. If your chair has armrests, you want to adjust the height to below the elbows. And if they're in the way or can't be adjusted, get rid of them or find a chair without armrests. Next. Sitting at home might look like this. And if you can look at this guy, you see that his head and his neck are tilted downward towards his screen, rather than the screen being adjusted so he can look at it directly on. His shoulders are rounded and move forward. His elbows are, I call it chicken wings. They're spread out to the side. And his chair is a little bit low for that table height. Go ahead. But he could look like this. So I want you to look carefully. If you want to chat or participate in this, you can you can discuss the fact that he's made some adjustments. The iPad is sitting on a couple of boxes. It's not rocket science. He's got a cushion under his bottom. He's also got some lower back support. He's not sitting quite as close to the table. He's leaning back a little bit, and his head isn't bent forward. His shoulders aren't rounded. On the left side of your screen is an infographic, and it's really the cutout of a complete infographic that you'll find as a resource on our Wakelet. Next.
We're going to jump into talking about your eyes and your monitor position, all right? So there are a couple like good standby rules. If you look at this person on the left-hand side, this is obviously not an opportune position, right? We want to make sure that as close as possible, we've got some good angles for ourselves. So you want to make sure that your eyes and your monitor height is at the right distance and height for you, right? So we know that in order for you to be able to see, it has to be close enough that you can see, and you can change the settings so that the icons are larger. But I think it's important to make sure that you've got good distance and you're not leaning over like him. So like if you look at this guy on the right-hand side, he's kind of made himself his own standing desk at the countertop, and given himself some level positions for his arms, but also made sure that the monitor that he's working from is at eye height. Because not only does the height matter, but the angle matters. And this is very much true for iPads and other devices. But the angle of our monitors also matters. You'll see the angles that, you know, are recommended for a good posture on the right-hand side. But we want to make sure that the glare is avoided. All right. We want to make sure that to as much as possible, you know, we can take off any other lighting or other things that would affect your ability to see the screen clearly. And we want to do this when we're thinking about our AAC users and their devices too. There's a lot of times I'll go into a classroom and I'll see that AAC device at, you know, just sitting flat. And there's tons of glare hanging out there. Leah, I see your question and I will get to it in just a second. We want to make sure, go ahead, Judy.
That's fine. We want to make sure to avoid the eye fatigue. And at this point, we've already been talking about 10 minutes, and you may even want to give yourself a little bit of visual break. You can look away from your monitor, focus in the distance, rest and refocus frequently, and cover your eyes with your palms for 15 seconds. Next slide. This is the 20-20 rule, and this is a really good idea to follow and to also model when you are working with parents or clients, to just say, you know what, we've been at this for about 20 minutes. Let's take a break for 20 seconds. Let's look away at something 20 feet away, and let's do that every 20 minutes. And that poster is available on your Wakelet as a reminder and something that you can share. Next. So we also want to think about reducing the monitor glare, and one of the best ways of doing that is to use ambient light, to dim overhead lights, locate your workstation beside windows and overhead lights not in front of, behind, or directly below. Elisa's already talked about the angling the monitor. You can use dark curtains or blinds to cover, avoid fluorescent lighting if possible, and cover the monitor with an anti-glare or a colored filter. And Elisa, I think you were going to talk a little bit about the blue lenses.
Yeah, so I added in the chat box, I absolutely use blue filter glasses. I have them right here. I try not to use them on presentations because of the reflection. And I will add some more information into the collaborative Google Doc with some information from the AOA, the American Optometric Association, about blue filter glasses. And what they do help me with is this thing. So computer vision syndrome is an actual diagnosis. It is a real thing. And what we see with people who suffer from this is eye strain, headaches, some blurred vision, maybe your eyes are drier than normal, and you definitely have neck and shoulder pain. Any number of these things on the right could be part of what caused that. It could be lighting, it could be glare, it could be the distance, it could be your posture. It could be that you have an uncorrected or a not correctly corrected vision problem. And it could be all of the above. So we want to kind of make sure that we're addressing it as best we can. Some strategies, some of which we've already talked about, the 20/20 rule. I will adjust colors and fonts on my monitors when I'm getting towards the end of the day, and there are some ideas on how to do that later on in our presentation. And making sure that you are taking breaks, I think, is the biggest thing to combat the CVS. Okay.
And don't forget, you can use screen masking as well. You can either use some of the built-in components of your computer, or you can use a paper screen.
Absolutely. You know, and I have 2 monitors, and there are times I will turn the second monitor off because I just really need monitor 1 and my eyes don't need to shift to monitor 2. So a couple of ideas of things that you can add. So this is a Chrome extension called Night Shift, and it does some overlay filters for you. You'll see an example of one here. You can adjust the settings of the color. You can have it automatically come on at a certain time, which I think is very helpful because I tend to forget how long I've been sitting at a computer. Other features that you can adjust. There are a ton of ease of access or accessibility settings, and we would have done the settings and the setups for our students in a heartbeat, and we forget about them for us. So Windows has a bunch of settings. Mac has a bunch of settings for dictation, for dark mode. For iOS, you can use dark mode and it'll flip and give you a black background with lighter text. I use Assistive Touch to reduce the amount of scrolling I'm doing, and I have shortcuts right on that Assistive Touch pop-up. In the Chrome operating system, you can increase the size, you can use a magnifier, you could put on high contrast. So use these accessibility settings that are built in to your advantage.
And model them.
Yeah, and model them.
Discuss them.
Make sure that if you're in a teletherapy session or you're working with a coworker, you can be like, man, you know, my eyes are really bothering me. I'm going to make the font bigger on this. Did you know you could do that? And being able to walk through those steps with a student or with a coworker is a great learning strategy. Just making small changes, just adjusting a small piece, whether it's your mouse cursor. You'll see I've got a mouse cursor that's got tails on it. So it kind of trails and I can catch where it is quicker. And I think, you know, being able to make those changes might be that you do well in the morning and you need to make those changes right now after lunch or in the afternoon. Make sure you're also hydrating yourself. You're drinking that water so that you can continue to work, because your eyes need hydration just like the rest of your body. If we were presenting this in real time, we would have you sit and do this stretch break. It is a fantastic walkthrough with 2 physical therapists of quick stretches that you can do. I'm going to show you just a tiny little snippet of in the middle. So they're going to walk through things exactly and explain to you why you would do them. So I encourage you to check out that video. It's quick, probably less than 5 minutes of stretch breaks you can do that you could incorporate across your day. We've talked about our back and our eyes, and now we're going to talk about our neck.
Okay, so we're ready for the next slide. We have just about 5 or 6 minutes, so I'm going to talk fast and I'm not going to read you the slides, but we do know that with phone calls, we're using our bodies in different ways. And just think about setting up your phone so you're not cradling it. Use the speaker function if possible, or a headset. Make sure that you've got your sound quality turned up. And there's several do-it-yourself phone stands that you can find in Instructables, and I think we've got some links for you.
Yep,
Next.
they're in the Weeklets.
Document holders. Using a document holder, it's kind of the same idea. Many times we are copying from documents, we're looking down, we're looking back up. At the end of the day, we can't even remember what we've read. So even those chunking strategies that we stress with our kids don't work for us. So there's some simple solutions, including just taping the document to the side of your screen using clothespins fastened to your screen, or creating a document holder from a styrofoam cup. Next. Oh, hands, wrists, and fingers. So this is why we call this head, shoulders, knees, and toes. We're kind of working our way up and down. But if you could see my wrists right now, I'm covered with bruises because I tend to lean my wrists against surfaces that aren't at the right height. And when that happens, you end up getting pressure areas, especially if you're working all day on the computer. So these are just some ideas. I'm not going to read them to you because you have access to the slides, but you can get the idea that your wrists need to be in neutral and not leaning on a surface or not bent. Okay. So keyboards and mice, we want to make sure that they're just above lap level. And one of the things that we tend to do is, because we're multitasking, our keyboards and mice may not be at midline or may not be towards our dominant hand. And when we're having to do a lot of twisting and leaning, it just adds to that physical discomfort. So there's some statistics on the slide as to where the ideal location for your computer keyboard and your mouse might be. Next.
So this is a quick, there's a Chrome extension. This is where I got my custom cursors. You could go find things that are larger and or easier for you to see. We're going to talk a little bit about other positions that you might be finding yourself in as you work.
So working on the floor, it just may be that's your only space. And if you are working on the floor, find a space to work that's going to be safe, that you're not going to be run over by the dog and the cat. Make sure you can get up from the floor. Some of us can't at this point without a lot of help. You want to make sure that you've got something firm under your bottom, your sit bones, and that you want to really support the back. You don't want to be leaning forward or back. You want to be in neutral position. And then you want to bend your knees up and bring the laptop towards you rather than bringing your back towards the laptop. Take breaks frequently so your arms and legs don't go to sleep. And we'll go on from there. There is a handout for each of these. There is a handout from UCLA that gives you a lot more specifics and talks about the position. If you do work while you're reclining, you're going to wear your arms out real fast. You want to make sure to support the back. Start by building up continuous support, starting at the hips and working all the way up to the shoulder blades. Please, please, please elevate your knees, and it's so much more comfortable if you've got a cushion under your knees instead of just bending them. And use a lap tray or a firm surface rather than a pillow. Bringing the screen up to your eye level, but also making sure that the fan can be under, is not blocked so that your laptop doesn't overheat if you're using a laptop. Okay, next. Working from the couch, kind of the same thing. You want to support your back. Your optimal posture is slightly reclined, and the posture that the woman is displaying is the before, not the after. And again, you're going to bend your knees, put something behind your knees, and take breaks. Next. This is you, Elisa.
Well, yes, we just want to make sure that you're providing interventions to yourself and then making sure you're modeling and supporting that to the students. And this says that same thing. We want to model, you know, what we want our students and our own kids that are working at home to do.
Next. This is a stretch break, and this is another poster that you can just download directly. I think, did we download these or just put the link in the Wakelet, Elisa?
The link is in the Wakelet to all of them.
Okay, so perfect. You can download these. You can send them to your parents. You send the link to the parents or the other people with whom you're working with, and they will thank you.
So a couple of other of my favorite extensions. This is an extension called Healthy Browsing. Once you add it, you'll see you can get a reminder for blinking, a reminder for water, a stretch reminder, and a posture reminder. And it can either pop up or it can play a sound or both. I use Calm, the app normally. There's an extension for it that you can use that will allow you to do some calm breathing as a break right from your browser. We know that stress affects our positioning, and we know that stress is something that we are all under and that we can't always control. And for good reason. You know, we're using new softwares, we're in new environments, and we want to make sure we're extra mindful of the things we can do to limit our stress, taking extra breaks, walking that dog, just sitting outside. We want to make sure that even if you have the best ergonomic setup, you need to use it correctly still. We need to make sure that you're not sitting in one place for forever. The best chair is still bad if you sit in it 9 hours a day. And making sure you have a dedicated workspace as much as possible with your everything set up, and that you do walk away and take breaks to try to reduce some of those repetitive movements and awkward postures that lead to us having some injuries. And again, use what you've got. We have pillows around our house. Just kind of be creative and go on a scavenger hunt for what you could do to get your equipment and yourself in the right place. These are 2 infographics that we made. You can click on the link either in the Wakelet or on the slide itself, and you can download these to share or to use for yourself as a great reminder. Everything we shared today is in this Wakelet, and the Wakelet link is both on the slides as well as in the collaborative Google Doc. Judie, I cannot believe we made it.
We did 50 some slides in 25 minutes, and you hung in there this whole time, and we are grateful.
So we have a couple of minutes if we want to hang out for a minute or 2 before you jump to the next session. If you have questions, Rachel, did we help you?
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So if anybody has any questions, they can drop them in the chat box. You're welcome to unmute your microphone and ask. And again, you have our contact information, so you can always reach out by email or Twitter if you have specific questions.
You'll be so surprised at what some of these simple things will do for you. We get so much feedback. We've done this before, this session before, and we did it in 60 minutes. So that we didn't have to talk so fast, and you got a chance to kind of absorb. But we got so much feedback from people that just said just a little simple thing like using a mouse rather than the touch screen, or shifting things over, or thinking ahead, so that people weren't getting up a half a dozen times during their work session. So we hope this has been helpful to you.
And everybody's posture is better in this session. We've noticed when people turn their cameras on, about 3 minutes in, everybody sits up a lot straighter, and you see them not like doing the Zoom lean. It definitely helps. You're welcome, Magdalena. I'm glad it was helpful. Yep, your neck is going to thank you for sure. For sure. So we hope you have a great rest of the day. Jump into whatever. Please go take a stress and walking break real quick. Then come back to your computer and jump into whatever you're going to do at 1:30, which I think is next.
And please join us or like us on Facebook, or join us on Twitter, or however you say that all. We would be very interested in continuing to support you and to learn from you as well.
Yep, if something works for you, please share. Feel free, you can either just directly contact us on Twitter. My DMs are open if you want to send a direct message, and let us know. Or if you have a question and you take a picture of your workstation, we'll try to make some quick recommendations of things that will help. All right, I am going to stop sharing, and I'm gonna